Hi, my name's Caden Bruger, and then for my midterm, I guess we'll just start with the first question, or the first task. So, for the variables, I got for age, I got categorical, gender categorical, race categorical, date of birth categorical, state categorical, highest level of force categorical, and near death I got categorical. And the reason I got category for all of them is because all those things can be categorized as something like age, under category, gender, male or female, race, Hispanic, white, Indian, date of birth, it's categorized by the month and the day, the state, one of the 50 states. Highest level of force was car crash or beat or, like a gunshot. And year death, January, February. Here's my histogram. And then my histogram, the largest bin was 20 to 30 and 30 to 40. And then I would say the average for the deceased was 35 years old. And then my histogram was bell-shaped. And if you were to take off the outliers, it would be right skewered. Yep. All right, so the fourth task. All right, so the average age of the deceased person from police is 36. The average age for a deceased man is 36, and for women is 37. And the average race killed by police is an African American person with a mean of 37. And the highest level of force is undetermined. And the way I got these numbers is from StatCrunch and using the summary stats. And below, I don't know if you're looking at my personal midterm as you watch this video, but if you're not, so I got the mean age is 36.3 or 36.4. The average mean, these are all the means of deceased people. So the average deceased female was 37.8 and male is 36.2. And then so in the next one I have grouped by race, and African American was mean age was 37.1. Asian or Pacific Islander was 32.5. European American or white was 35.7. Hispanic was 35.6. Middle Eastern was 44.5. Native American was 28.3. And then unspecified was 37.5. And the means for the highest level of force was restrained was 31.7, and this once again is the mean age of the people dying from these specific things. So restrained was 31.7, beaten or hit with the instrument was 37.3, burned or smoked inhalation was 35.5. Drown was 34.3. Fell from a height was 28. A gunshot was 36.3. Medical emergency was 33.5. Other was 19. Died was 16. Undetermined was 43. Vehicle was 37.5. All right, so here is my box plot. And then the IQ, the interquartile range for this set is 19. The lowest boundary is 2.5. The highest boundary is 73.5. The outliers we have in this one are 0.17, 76, 76, 81, 83, 86, 87. And then my summary statistics with outliers. So number 500, the mean was 36.39, so 36.4. Standard deviation was 13.6, median 36, range 86.83, 86.83. Min was 0.17, max was 87. quartile 1 was 26, quartile 3 was 45, and her quartile range was 19. And then for without outliers, was 493. The mean was 35.9. Standard deviation was 12.67. Median was 36. Range was 81. Min was 6. Max was 87. Quartile 1 was 26. Quartile 3 was 44. Interquartile range was 18. I'll let you get a little better of a look on that. And then the rows I deleted were found at the beginning and at the end. And this is true because the outliers don't conform with the rest of the numbers. They are ages that were uncommonly killed by police, and the other numbers being in a more typical age group. In my data set, I had 1 outlier at the beginning and 7 at the end. The mean didn't change very much, or the standard deviation, with the outliers in or out, and I think that is because of the fact of the amount of the size of the data set I had, with being 500 people and that being such a big number, and then most were such in a common area. The outliers didn't change it that much. The z-score was 3.23. I guess there's my work. 77 minus 35 divided by 13. All right. I think this was an unusual z-score, being that the fact that 77 being the number we used was already an outlier in the data set. All right. And then what is the probability of selecting a female who died if you chose one case at random from this data? So for female deaths was 34 divided by 371, or 0.092. The probability of selecting a gunshot death case if you chose one case at random from the data was 264 divided by 371, or 0.712. The probability of selecting a white person who died in Arizona if you choose one case at random from the data was 3 divided by 371, or 0.008. The probability of selecting a female or Hispanic was 104 divided by 371, or 0.280. Task 9 was a probability of a case involving a European American white person. Was 177 divided by 341, or 0.477. The probability of a case involving a black person was all right. And if you are informed that the 214 demographic breakdown by race in the U.S. indicates that 72.4% of the population is white and 12.6% of the population is black, what conclusion can you draw from the probabilities found based on your sample? That although this is my answer, that although white people have more deaths caused by police than black people, but the average black person is more likely to get killed by police more than your average white person. Are you more likely to die by a gunshot in New York or Texas? The appropriate probabilities to answer the question and explain why they are correct probabilities to use. The probabilities of being shot in Texas is 0.065, and in New York is 0.22. So you are more likely to get shot in Texas than New York. These are the correct probabilities because in Texas, 24 people are killed by gunshot, and in New York, 8 people were killed by gunshot. Since the data we are using has 371 people, you are divided 8 and 24 by 371. You get 1 to get probabilities. All right. Then task 10. Do you believe that your data supports the idea that police encounters show any type of bias? Explain your type of bias you have discovered, if any. And my answer is, after examining this data, I don't believe that police encounters show too much of a bias. The data I have shows that most people killed were white and black people, with the white being the most commonly killed people. This being said, knowing that only 12% of the population is black and 72% of the population is white. There are only 70 more white people being killed. Does show that there's cops have a bias towards black people. Not bias towards black people, but a bias towards killing black people. If you believe the bias exists, suggest ways problems can be addressed to improve the system. I don't believe there's much of a bias in this data. I do believe that there is a higher chance of being killed by a cop if you are black than you are in any other race. Of the only 67 black people who were killed by a gunshot in the relationship by the cops is self-defense. But I also believe cops should be trained how not to use brutal force as much as they do. So maybe some more training in how to protect themselves without killing. It appears that police-involved deaths occurs more frequently in men and in a group between 20 and 40, suggests more possible reasons for this result. The reason I believe the most common occurring age and gender is men is between 20 and 40 is because during this time, men's life can be very stressful. Things could happen in a man's life that can lead for them to crime, like losing a job. The more things can lead to crime, like losing a job, divorce, or even loss of a loved one.